Hello, this is Tom from anti-proton.com. I live inside of a nuclear check source. I'll prove it to you. My brick is radioactive. My apartment, the entire apartment, which is encased in brick, the brick is radioactive. It has an impurity of sorts, which I'm going to reveal today. I have tested this numerous times with the Geiger counter, and that's neat and everything. It shows you what it is and if it's alpha or beta, etc., depending on how you use the unit. But just last night I used gamma spectroscopy, or gamma spectroscopy, depending on how you want to pronounce it, and I actually looked to see what is in my brick. My leading theories had been uranium or thorium, two commonplace things that one can find inside of brick. In fact, these are perfectly natural to find inside of cement and brick and other things that exist in the ground. But I get a relatively high amount, in my opinion, per brick, if you like, and it's kind of amusing. I actually have to use additional lead shielding for all my devices as a result of this. Let me show you. Alrighty, folks. As you can see, my brick is nice and hot. We're sitting here at 80, 90, 100 counts per minute, depending on the moment. An average of this over the course of an hour actually does come out to about 100 counts per minute. 102 right this moment. And it depends. Each brick is hotter or less hot, depending on various little factors. I guess how much of whatever's in them is in them. Like this guy's right here is actually hotter than the other one. Wow. And I'll pull this away in a minute so you can see that it's not something else, that it's obviously the brick. Whew, look at that. I'm kind of curious how high this one will go. 106? Oh, 112. Let's go down and test this one. Not too bad. Lower. Just to let you know, my background is usually 38 counts per minute throughout the house. Out here in the porch it's usually higher, probably because of the brick, but it still dwells right around the 50-something count mark. So we're looking at a little bit over, anywhere from 20 to maybe 60 counts per minute higher than normal, depending on which brick you're on. This guy right here is a nasty one for sure. Look at that. Definitely a nasty one. Well, we'll know in just a minute what causes this. Now as I pull this away, and let's turn it so it's not facing the brick anymore, the count rate drops pretty quickly. Up against the brick here though, it's still going to be higher than it is in the center of the porch, because proximity wise we're still relatively close to the brick. Let me move this counter closer to the actual camera itself, so the rate drops. Yeah, there we go. Still kind of high though. I know it's getting down to where I said it should be around 50s, 50, 51, 52, somewhere in there. But it's still higher than the rest of the house. By far the rest of the house is usually 38. This is nothing really to worry about. This isn't necessarily dangerous, but I think we're going to be interested to find out what's actually in this brick. Now, we had an earthquake recently, and some of the brick had to be ripped out as a result of the earthquake. And I got a hold of a piece of it that got ripped out, so I actually have the ability to test this without having to put the scintillator up against it, which is good because I didn't want to actually do that. Let's go inside and let's see what's in the brick. Alrighty, so we take the thoriated brick and we put it inside of this. Normally I keep my scintillator hooked up here against the wall with lead stacked all the way around it, but today I stuffed it under here. I have a lead shield with lead behind it. Lead stacked all over it. Let me take all the little pieces off here and show you how it's stacked. We're actually done testing this. Right this moment my computer's having a USB issue, and my device is capable of running by itself without being connected to the computer, which is good, but otherwise it's sort of hindering my ability to continue doing a lot of my more complicated tests because it keeps kicking out on me, and I need to get my laptop fixed, which is going to happen in the next couple of days. It's kind of hindering my Japanese testing. And it's also hindering me being on radiationnetwork.com. Anyway, here's the sample of brick right here. I had it up against a piece of thick aluminum. I know this looks like aluminum foil, it actually is, but it's like 100 layers of, I don't know if it's really 100, but it's 30 or 40 layers. It's incredibly thick, I can't even bend it. Then behind that is the actual scintillator head with a donut of lead around it, another donut of lead around it, and there you go. And that was what I was using to test.
Alright, folks. So here we go. Okay, folks, so here we go. I'm looking at what it is that I was able to detect, and let me change this a little so you can see it. Here it is. This is the spectrum that I picked up. Now my calibration's off by plus or minus maybe 10 kiloelectron volts either way, and that's fine because I did a pretty simple quick calibration. But I was able to pretty quickly pick out what I found inside of it. Let me go down the list here and show you what sort of things I found. Right off the bat, look right down here. See this area right here? At around 13 kiloelectron volts. This is a natural location to find thorium and uranium and so on. The actual primary thorium and uranium itself tend to actually produce peaks right here. And there are a couple, but this is on the edge of what I'm able to detect. Moving right along as you go up the top here, this right here is a bunch of X-rays that are formed by interactions inside of my actual scintillator tube itself. But interestingly enough, lead-212 also produces a peak right in the middle of here, right around 77.11, which is right there. This is much higher than it normally should be. Okay, Windows is flipping out for whatever reason. But anyway, that's why this peak is higher than it normally would be, I believe. Next down the list, we have at 186. Where is that? Oops. I'm having a technical bad day here. At about 186 kiloelectron volts, right around these little peaks right here, these twin peaks right here, you have radon radium-226, not to be confused with radon, which is a gas. Radium-226 peaks right here, and I have those peaks as well. And now moving on down to 295. Let's actually move over here to 244 first off. At 238, which is right about here, right around this area right here, and I'm plus and minus a little bit. Right around this area here, you have 238, which is lead-212. And then, of course, you have bismuth 214 at 351. Let's see where that is. Yeah, here we go, 351. There's 350, so 351's here, and that's pretty close to right where this little peak is right here. See the peak? And that's caused by bismuth 214, and of course at 609 we have another peak. That's right here. Or is it here? Where's 609? 609 is about right there. There it is. There's a peak right there too. So it's right in the edge of the peak, and I'm plus or minus a couple kiloelectron volts. So as you see, I have most of the peaks required for a mixture of thorium and uranium. And to give you an idea, here is natural uranium. This is a beautiful peak, set of peaks from natural uranium. I mean, I took a really good piece and put it right in the machine and ran it for a while. I ran it for 28,500 seconds, and you see what I got, these beautiful peaks. You don't see those in this because this is very choppy. There's lots of impurities throughout it. But over the course of nearly double the time, I did get a couple interesting peaks that are found inside of this sample as well. But the point being is I'm quite confident that I see peaks that exist for thorium and peaks that exist for uranium. One thing I did do is I did do a lot of removal of background. Let me do that right now. Stripping the background, some of the peaks stick out just a little bit more. See each one of them? And these peaks match up quite dead on, like 295, this is 296, so that's pretty close. At around 295 kiloelectron volts, and I know I'm in channels, but it's about a 1-to-1 ratio, you get lead 214 right there. And then next over here at 253, at 258, you end up with Bi 214. Bismuth 214 is peaks at 251, so that's right around this area. So you get the idea. Uranium and thorium are pretty much for sure in my brick. And that's what my brick's made out of. And that's the apartment I live in. Isn't that great?
So in conclusion, as you can see, my brick contains thorium and uranium, most likely, and the decay products of both of those too. This is not necessarily particularly hazardous. It probably only adds a few millirem per year to my actual yearly exposure. If you look at the EPA's website, they usually suggest about 7 millirem per year if your house is made of brick and cement and so on. It would be exceedingly complicated to determine what the actual exposure would be throughout a house and all the various patterns of people walking around and so on. I don't believe that the levels that I'm seeing are of any major danger to me. Your body can handle small amounts of radiation like that without too much trouble. Keeping in mind these are very small amounts, and they're not internally exposing me. They're not. I'm not eating them per se. Although I am probably breathing a little bit of the dust of them every now and then, and also any radon that comes off of them as well. I might consider having the house radon tested at some point in the future. But this has been Tom from anti-proton.com. Bye-bye.